Hi everybody, my name is Larsen. In this video I'm going to show you some of the things that you'll learn if you start practicing in all 12 keys. And I'm also going to talk about some easy ways on how to get started practicing different things in all 12 keys. I'm going to split this up in three main areas. The first one is technique, so knowing your scales and your arpeggios all over the instrument and in all 12 keys. The second one is theory, so you don't only want to be able to play everything everywhere, you also want to be able to think in those keys, and especially guitar players are good at just relying on visual and muscle memory and not really knowing what is going on. The third one is songs, so putting together the theory and the technique should help you just work on songs and trying to play those in different keys. This is going to help you a lot in learning faster and improvising better and just generalizing everything that you know. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar, improve the way that you solo, check out some interesting scales or arpeggios, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to make sure not to miss anything, then click the little bell notification icon next to the subscribe button. Technique and scale practice. So this is really about flexibility on the instrument. I don't think it matters too much what kind of music you play. You probably want to know all your major scales and your harmonic minor and melodic minor scales in all 12 keys. And you want to know the diatonic harmonies or the arpeggios that are contained in those scales. If you're playing in anything that's more complicated than an AC/DC cover band, you're probably going to need this kind of stuff. You probably practice technique every time you pick up the instrument, so make sure that in your technique routine or in the way that you work on this warm up, you want to incorporate an element that takes you through all 12 keys. And you can do this in many ways. I know people who do this with Excel sheets and notebooks, and it doesn't really matter, but just start thinking a little bit about it and then try to get that into the way that you practice, and it's going to help you open up a lot more and get a lot more flexibility on the instrument, knowing everything and where it is. The way I do this is that I go through the circle of fifths every day and I just pick some random key to start with. Sorry, if I'm starting very randomly on C, then I'll just play something in C and then go through to F, E flat, and then move through all 12 keys. That gives me just a way of limiting the way that I practice technique, so I don't do it too much. And I just get through all the keys every day. So that's one way of doing it. The way I would do this is then to play, if we take the key of E flat major, and then first play the scale, so, and then play some sort of exercise in that scale, very often focusing on learning the diatonic harmony and knowing that really well. So one exercise could be to play the diatonic triads, but then play them in the first inversion. That could be something like this. If you're practicing your scales like this on guitar, then very often we can pretty much get away with just using our ears and then just knowing where the root is. So every scale position is just tied to where the root is, and then whatever kind of exercise you're playing in it, you're going to be playing by ear. I do this as well a lot, but you do kind of want to also keep track of what you're playing and try to challenge yourself so that you also really know what notes are there, because when you're soloing, you don't only need to know where the root is, you also do need to know where all the other things in the scale, all the diatonic triads and arpeggios are, and what notes you're actually playing. Music theory. Understand the key and make it easier to learn and transpose songs. The better you know your music theory and understand the harmony that is in a key, the easier it's going to be to take the information out of the songs that you already know and then use that when you're learning new songs. If you can sort of think across the key, then you can see how many of the songs are really quite similar, and that's going to help you know what they sound like and how to play them. So if it's easy for you to understand what the chords are in a key, and in that way you don't really have to transpose it to see that two things are similar, then you'll realize that two songs like All the Things You Are and Fly Me to the Moon are really quite similar in the beginning, and they have pretty much the same progression actually. Just to demonstrate, so if we take All the Things You Are in A flat, which is the normal key, and then Fly Me to the Moon, which usually, at least when I'm playing it, is not in A flat, but if we play it in A flat, then it sounds like this. And then here it's different, but you can see how a lot of those, and you will have a part of the song that's really the same, and you want to realize that those things are the same. You can also understand the form better because you realize that in the same places of the form, the same things are happening. Like an example of that would be There'll Never Be Another You and In a Mellow Tone. The reason that I can keep on publishing videos every week is that I have a community of people over on Patreon that are supporting my channel. I'm very grateful for that. And if you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. If you join us over on Patreon, I can also give you something in return for your support. Learning songs in all 12 keys, putting it to use while you're playing music. There are many famous anecdotes about practicing in 12 keys and playing in all 12 keys. I think the most famous one is probably Charlie Parker playing Cherokee and practicing Cherokee in all 12 keys. And there's also one about Johnny Griffin and Roy Hargrove playing rhythm changes on a gig in all 12 keys. But I don't think that's the way you want to start this. If you want to start working with songs in different keys, you probably just want to start with one song you know really well and then try and play it in one other key. And just start feeling a little bit at home, using that you already know the song so that you can already hear what it's supposed to sound like, and then use your theory and your technique to just play that song in that key so that gets easy. And then if you want to work on it, then you can take another key another day. I think that's a better way to start than immediately just go, okay, now I have to play rhythm changes in tempo 300 and it has to be in all 12 keys, and I'm gonna go chromatically up every chorus. That's of course not the approach that's gonna work. You need to take it step by step. For me, practicing in all 12 keys was really always connected to working with vocalists. That's really where I used my ability to transpose and think in keys, because that's where I need it. And if you get the chance, you should definitely try and work on comping vocalists, because that's in that way really great to just play the material that you already know, but then you just get to go through it in some other keys. And well, I mean, jazz is about playing together with other people, so any chance you get to play with other people you want to take. But in that respect, I think playing behind a vocalist is something special. As an example, let's have a look at how to play All the Things You Are in another key. So I'm going to play it in D major. I'm going to use the fact that I know that the first note in the melody is the root, so that means that I can just start on a D. When I'm playing the melody, I'm in part playing it by ear. I might know sort of exactly what the notes are in some specific places, but for the rest I'm really just using the fact that I know what the melody sounds like. So. So that's really what's at work here. And then of course if you have to add the chords to that, then you have to start thinking. But I know it starts on the 6th degree and then it moves through the key, through the circular fifth, so. And then I have sort of key places in the song where I know, like, it'll move from major to minor, and I'll have in part some functional way of thinking of it, but also just sort of a way for me to bridge from one to the next, which actually in this case is using the pivot chord the way it is, that you have this chord that we're modulating to F sharp minor, F sharp major, and then that turns into minor, and that's the way that takes us on in the song. So in that way I'm actually linking it to theory, even though I wasn't thinking about it like that. And the same of course goes when I'm soloing on this, because the progression is fairly simple, it's very diatonic, and it's moving in a very logical way. So I can pretty much just rely on already knowing what the song sounds like, and then playing a progression that's not too complicated. And then the only places you kind of really need to think about it is when you have the modulations to the major chord, so you get those the dominant, so the second time the A flat 7 going to D flat. and in the first one it's the C sharp 7 going to F sharp major, or D flat going to G flat major. So those are the places where you kind of need to watch out a little bit, and there you rely on your theory. For the rest, you can really just fall back on all the stuff that you already know, because you're used to just playing these progressions in all keys. And that's sort of the benefit of doing this, that you don't have to worry too much. It's not a huge transition to play this song a tritone away from the original, because you already know what the song sounds like, and because you kind of can hang on to the melody and realize that it's a progression that you know really well, and that you played very similar progressions in other keys. Being able to transpose things through all 12 keys on guitar is really about being able to have a good overview of all the different scale positions that you work with. So for me, I work with 7 positions, and if you want to have some ideas on how to improve that and how to practice that, then check out this video that they absolutely hated over on Reddit Music Theory, which is called Practice in All 7 Keys. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar and it's the first time you see one of my videos, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. That's about it for this time. Thank you for watching, and until next time.